All right, you ready to go? Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind, and the Portfolio Builders Club, launching in April or May. one of those two dates. I think I found two more flips for the group, so we'll see. Got some. Need to make a couple more offers, but Rob is going out today, running around town, signing contracts and putting together scopes of work. So I am on the show by myself today. The only person in charge is Daryl, so he's going to tell me what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not. So in any case, lots of data coming in, and I think we can officially say we've hit the bottom. So this is about as low as it's going to get. I think nationally, real estate prices have lost about 2% year over year, despite the fact they're up 40% since COVID. So they're only up 38%. But in Houston, you can go to HAR right now. You can type in HAR report, and they actually have the raw data in there. And if you download the entire Excel, I think it's actually a CSV file. If you download the CSV, convert it to Excel, delete all of the neighborhoods that have annual sales below 30 houses, and remove any of the neighborhoods that have a sales price above $350,000. Those are the markets that we concentrate in. Most of the properties I buy are less than $350,000. Now, beach houses, mostly beach houses, are going to be a lot more expensive than that. But the vast majority of the portfolios that we are building around here are less than $350,000. Those markets, when you pull that down from HAR, are up 12% year over year. What does that mean? A house that was worth $200,000 last year is worth $24,000 more this year. It's that simple. It's 12%. That house appreciated $2,000 a month. It's simple math. The math is really simple. About $2,000 a month. It's actually $2,400, but that's okay. Math's close enough for today. Here is the reality. I just saw a post on Zero Hedge that one of the Fed. He is the Federal Reserve. Let me see where he's at. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up. I think it's Goolsby that came out today and said, hey, we need to be really cautious. We need to really look at the macro and micro environment to make sure it's necessary for us to continue raising rates, which I think means the Federal Reserve is about done. The CPI comes out tomorrow. So CPI hits the street tomorrow. For whatever reason, my laptop's not working. But CPI hits tomorrow. Could see a rate hike in May. But consensus is this is going to be about it. And the rumor on the street is there's going to be aggressive rate cutting starting in Q4. So I think right now, I looked this morning, 30-year mortgage rates are up above 6%, 6.5, 6.52. Like we predicted, I think we're going to be into the fives, the high fives, could be even mid fives by the end of the year. What does that mean for you as a real estate investor? If you are in single-family real estate, you need to buy everything and get your hands on right now. You do not have a choice. Well, you have a choice. You're just going to pay more for it. That's what's going to happen. We are up 12% year over year from March to March. And the market already started slowing down in March and April. So we are up 12% already year over year. So you can wait, and it's just going to cost you more. In fact, here's what's going to happen. Rent growth is not keeping pace with values. We've known that for years. So the problem is going to be that you're going to have to pay so much more for this real estate in order for it to cash flow that a lot of deals aren't going to make sense. We're already experiencing that in Houston. And you could drop rates to zero and it wouldn't matter. These are $300,000 houses that rent for $1,800 a month. They're just not going to cash flow. You're going to have to put $100,000 down and they might break even. So Jason, what do? You need to start buying real estate right now. Right now. Commercial's a little bit different. A commercial market is really interesting. We know the CMBS market is having some problems, and a lot of these big apartment complexes are not able to refinance unless they take piles of cash to pay down the principal. Why? Taxes are way up and insurance is way up. And a lot of these deals got bought too thin. I've been saying that for a decade. That doesn't mean I was right 5 years ago. I probably should have bought all that stuff at a 6 cap 5 years ago. But here's what happens. When rates go up and there's no money to refinance, there's two risks here. I have heard no one talk about this when they talk about real estate. There are two main risks. One is interest rate risk. You're in the middle of refinancing, rates have doubled, less cash flow. The second risk is the one I hear no one talk about. And that is, what happens when the capital markets, i.e. your lenders, are not lending anymore? And you can't refinance that property. That's called refinance risk. It is the scariest one because you're looking around the exits. You're looking at the exits like, how do I get out? How do I get out? How do I get? They're all blocked. This bank you used to be able to refinance with, they won't do it anymore. This bank is closed up shop. This hedge fund's not doing anything. Like it turns into a nightmare fast. Very early in my investing career, I met a couple of guys out of Dallas. They had under 1,000 doors, 600, 700, 800 doors, somewhere around there. Class B, printing money. And they had to refinance right in the middle of the great financial crisis. Guess what? Nobody was refinancing. Bank took the property back. It cost them millions, if not tens of millions, just because they couldn't get a loan. The thing was cash flowing. They just couldn't get enough cash. They couldn't. Here's the crazy thing. Nobody would even finance it at 50% loan to value. I mean, think about that for a minute. There was literally no loans. By the way, this is why we also teach that class, raise2invest.com. Raise2invest.com. This is why we teach that class. Because real estate investors naively assume, Jason, when a market crashes, I'm going to go buy a bunch of real estate. And my response is, with whose money? Because when a market crashes, it typically crashes because there is no capital. There's no money. No one's lending, including a lot of private lenders. Oh, I'll just go get a private lender. Really? Because their 401k just got whacked in half. Oh, well, I'll go to the hard money lenders. Oh, really? There were a lot of hard money lenders in the last 6 or 8 months that have greatly changed who they're lending to. And this market ain't even that tight. Wait till you see a crash. Those guys would rather just work with the borrowers they can trust, meaning the borrowers they've worked with for years, than they will bring on a bunch of new clients. Brand new to real estate. I'm going to be the next, real estate millionaire, even though I don't know what I'm doing. It's not how the world works. So the reality is, if you're going to go after that crash, you've already got to have an established business. Well, here's the problem. You guys just missed it. I got 2 more flips that I'm going to pick up on the north side of town. And I'm not a big flip guy. By flip, I mean we ought to just buy them and fix them up and sell them. What we're actually going to do is buy them, rent them. They're going to be a little negative cash flow, but they've got $200,000 in equity in them. This is Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it just wasn't working. Now it just popped back up. All right, you ready to go? Yes, sir. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. Chicago Fed's Goolsbee emerges as first rate hike dissenter, urges caution amid bank failures. This is over on Zero Hedge. There appears to be some confusion at the Fed, or perhaps just rising tide of politically motivated dissent. One day after New York Fed President John Williams, the man who sparked a revolt at the most important regional Federal Reserve Bank for being too clueless, said that he doesn't think rate hikes are behind the issues at failed banks. That is dumb and doesn't make any sense. That's beyond dumb. And even more idiotically, just hours after saying this morning that he doesn't think bank failures will be a big negative for the U.S. economy, another Fed president, this time the Fed's extremely political Chicago Fed president, who previously served as Obama's chief economist and whose ascent to the top of the Chicago Fed was marred in yet another Fed scandal, refuted everything Williams said earlier when he warned that the Fed should exercise prudence and patience in raising interest rates further, as central bankers assess just how much last month's banking turmoil will contribute to tighter lending conditions. So there's already some dissent in the room there at the Federal Reserve meeting. Say, hey guys, I think we got to take a breather on these rates. It's starting to kill our banks. Well, let me explain. I did a whole show on this. I think I did 2 shows on it. Let me explain what's going on. Banks have to invest. They are required in a couple of different ways to invest depositors' capital, meaning your money, in low risk and risk-free assets. What are risk-free assets? Treasuries. What are low-risk assets? Mortgage-backed securities. Now, some of you are going to say, well, Jason, back in 2008, mortgage-backed securities exploded. It took the whole system down. And I'm like, not really. Remember, these mortgage-backed securities are backed by who? The federal government through GSEs. They are insured by the federal government. They're almost as secure as treasuries. So a bank just can't go, we got all this depositors' cash sitting here. We need to make a little bit of money. Let's just go to Vegas, put it all on red. Like that. That's not how that works. They have to be extremely risk averse. And how they've done that for, a millennia, since the Templar Knights set up the first banking system, you go out and buy treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. They didn't have any of that sophistication back in the 1500s, but you guys kind of get the point. So the idea here is that they're going to earn a little bit, they're going to get a lot of money. They're going to give you a rate. That's your interest rate on your savings or checking account. And then they're going to get a little bit better deal in treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, and then they're going to take the spread. That's how a bank works. Now, here's what happens. What happens when interest rates rise? The value of those treasuries and mortgage-backed securities falls. It's very simple. If you got a $100,000 note at 5%, and all of a sudden interest rates are 10%, your note is worth roughly half. It's worth about 70%, but we won't get into all the math behind it. It doesn't really matter. Just know that as interest rates rise, the old treasuries and mortgage-backed securities are worth less. Why is that? Because if I'm going to buy your treasury from you, or I'm going to buy your mortgage-backed security from you with a lower interest rate, you are going to have to take a discount. That's what that's called. You're going to have to take a discount for the rate to be commensurate with the rates that I can get for the same dollar today. That's what happened. So these banks, by the way, just not banks, mutual funds, hedge funds, pensions, everybody has these on their books. They're not bad loans. They're not bad assets. It's just rates rose so fast, they couldn't offset the risk. Now, the smart banks did. I can tell you that. They're out there buying interest rate swaps and doing all kinds of other stuff, but that's what a good risk manager would do. My guess is when the congressional hearings start and the former risk manager of SVB Bank shows up, she is probably going to say, hey, look, I told these knuckleheads, I ran a VAR analysis. If interest rates hit this and our redemption rate hits that, we are insolvent overnight. Hey, guys, here are the 10 things that we can do to make sure that doesn't happen. And my guess is they were too busy figuring out if the bank was woke enough or not to actually sit down and do a little bit of math. So they got eaten alive. It's real simple. The math is like super easy, guys. Like this is not, for those of you in the risk management field, you're like, yeah, what happened here? You guys aren't running like a daily VAR, like you're looking at 6, 12 months, 3 months, like rates are changing fast. You guys, there's nobody doing some math over here? In fact, you have a whole department that does it. So it's like, what are we, this is very common. This is not some weird esoteric, math and takes like a bunch of calculus. Like, it's not even that hard. It's really, you guys can do it on your personal portfolios at home. There are VAR calculators all over the internet. But anyway, so the crazy thing is, so they decide to do nothing. So what happens is they have a little bank run. Now, the details of that bank run are kind of interesting. Allegedly, it was a whisper campaign through DMs on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And somehow Peter Thiel was involved, so I don't even know the whole story there. I don't think anybody does, so it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. But the bank had all this money tied up in these securities. So what happens? People are like, hey, I need my money out. So what do they have to do? They have to go sell their securities. Well, now their securities are worth 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% less. Guess what? There's not enough assets that you can sell to satiate the demand from your depositors withdrawing capital from the bank. Oops, guess what? We have a bunch of IOUs. We don't have enough capital to satisfy the IOUs. Ergo, you call the FDIC and say, hey, here's the keys, we're out of here. We don't know what to do. Now, what happens if tomorrow rates all of a sudden, the Federal Reserve goes, you know what, this tightening thing, yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of fun. In fact, it was not fun at all. I had to answer all these tough questions about economics and making my government guaranteed job even harder. So let's take Fed funds rate back to 0.01. What would happen tomorrow? All those bonds, mutual funds, all that other stuff would be worth the same, if not a little bit more. In fact, here's what's interesting. All those, I shouldn't say mutual funds, all those treasuries and mortgage-backed securities that people are buying now, when interest rates drop, they're going to be worth even more. Why? Because they have a higher interest rate. I will tell you right now, when rates drop, there are going to be a lot of people that make a ton of money. Ton. Because my guess is we're probably going to be half the Fed funds rate we're at now right before the election next year. That is my guess. I know that sounds extreme, but as fast as these rates go up is as fast as they can go down. It's just how it works. And that's a lot of the predictions out there right now from folks who kind of follow this stuff, who've got some level of, how can I say, I shouldn't say education. There's a lot of folks that are educated, smart, and all that, and have totally screwed this up. But credible is probably a better way to put it. The real credible analysts out there saying, I think these rates are going to come tumbling down Q4. So why do I tell you this is the bottom? It's that simple. Rates come back down. We have got pent-up buyers and sellers like you would not believe. I talk to mortgage people all day. I talk to agents all day, and they tell me the same thing. Jason, I have never had a list this deep of people sitting on the sidelines. They are ready to do business. They just don't want to do it at this rate. And that's completely understandable. What does that mean for you as a real estate investor? It means prices are going up, and they're going to shoot to the moon, just like they did during COVID. This is Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. You ready to go? Yes. Okay. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. What we're experiencing right now with rates is very similar to what we experienced during COVID. It is real interesting. A lot of people sitting on the sidelines scared. And when those rates start coming down, you can bet there's going to be a whole lot more buyers out there. That's how it works. Prices have stabilized. I don't think people realize this. Real estate is one of the few industries where demand equals supply and supply equals demand. Meaning most people that are buying a home already own a home. So when they go to buy another home, they take one off the market and put theirs on the market. The only thing that really changes supply in a marketplace is new construction. That's really it. Unless people are mass migrating out, then you see a big increase in supply. But that really doesn't happen in our major metro areas. It happened in Ukraine. I mean, what's the price of real estate in Ukraine right now? I mean, I keep seeing all this nonsense on social media, and the folks who kind of believe in this, maybe it was their political science class, they kind of missed it. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to help rebuild Ukraine. It's going to be better before. No, it's not. Anybody that had the ability to move, family, friends, a little bit of money, a good skill, ain't ever going back. They are never going back. They might go back to visit in 15 years. They're never going back. So who are the folks that are left there? The ones that don't have a choice. That's not to say everybody that stayed didn't have a choice, but if you have a choice between being a Ukrainian patriot and staying there while your home gets shelled, or picking up and taking your family and leaving, the smart ones left. That's what's left in that country. Good luck. I guess we'll spend a few trillion there trying to build that mess back. But it's the same thing in real estate. Real estate's a real simple game. Somebody's buying a house, somebody's selling a house. There's not a whole lot of new construction around here, so there's not a bunch of new supply. So where does demand come from? Simple. Those homeowners that want to move up, move down, move across town. Well, where does an increase in demand come from? Two places. One is jobs. And Texas does one thing really well. Jobs. Lots of them. Plenty of jobs here. Second thing is household formation, meaning people making babies. It's really what that means. Texas is unique in that it's actually gotten younger, which is a good thing, meaning immigration, whether it's from outside the United States or interstate, folks moving from California, Florida, not necessarily Florida, but certainly New York. Everybody's moving here. Taxes are low. Government is somewhat unintrusive. Now, the HOA is a pain. You guys live in HOA neighborhoods. Houston has the largest number of HOAs because we really don't have any zoning here. So that's why our HOAs are so strong. We're like second to Florida. Florida's HOAs are really strong because of all the condo associations. But anyway, so you've got everybody moving here. What happens when rates jump into the fives? What happens when that 15-year hits fours, threes? Jason, you understand, man, rates have got to go up. Rates have gone down since the 70s. Now, does that mean they're going to go up to 18, 19%? Here's what's interesting. Whenever I talk to real estate guys, and they say, well, Jason, back in my day, interest rates were 19%. We walked uphill both ways barefoot in the snow to school, and we liked it. And I'm like, all right, all that may be true. Though I'm not sure how you walk up the hill both ways to school. But here is where it gets interesting. If you believe that to be true, then you need to buy every piece of single-family real estate you can. They'll say, why is that? I said, because in the 70s and 80s, single-family real estate shot through the roof. Housing got incredibly expensive and never went back down. Ever. This is what everybody forgets. It's like, you need to take that. You need to go to the Federal Reserve's website and type in inflation and house prices, United States. You could see the two charts sitting right next to each other. And housing has this really great line that goes from the bottom left to the upper right. Just this almost like stratospheric straight line right across the chart. There was a little dip in 2008. That was it. And then you look at interest rates, starting in the 70s. They climbed all the way to like 82, 84. And then they dove, and then they've dove down for the last 40 years. There's literally no correlation between interest rate and the price of a house. None. I don't know why people keep saying there is. I don't get that at all. I think it's just, I've heard economists say this, and I'm like, you need to burn that Harvard economics PhD, buddy, because that doesn't even make any sense. Now, there's a correlation between interest rate and sales. Sales is not price. Sales is number of houses sold. Price is what you paid for it. They're not tied to each other. When the conditions in a marketplace are not favorable, homeowners don't sell, which takes supply off the market. It's real simple. It's like a teeter-totter. It's one of the few industries that's like that. If I want to buy a piece of real estate, a lot of times I already own some. So I'm just not going to sell it. The demand for real estate, and in particular in Texas, is incredibly high. Incredibly high. I see a lot of talk about commercial real estate right now, and I'm like, office buildings are in a little bit of trouble, multifamily's in a little bit of trouble, but we knew that for years. When folks are buying and selling, I had this deal, I kind of said this in the first or second segment. I had this deal this guy sent me today. He was like, look, I can get it to you at like 80 a door, needs 10 to 15K a door in rehab, and there's some down the street that are selling right now at 106K a door. And I was like, well, I don't know what any of that means, because when I look at the numbers here, this is a 3.5 cap on actuals. And by the way, your actuals are off by 20% between what's in the broker package and the T12 you sent me. So none of this makes sense to me. I looked at another deal we had under contract, and I could have sworn the rents were higher than that. We signed all the non-disclosure nonsense, whatever. Anyway, so they finally send over the numbers. I'm like, dude, this thing's overvalued. We need to get it for 50%. Like, it's got to take a 50% haircut in order for me to even consider this deal. This is a crazy deal. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. And so they're going to go, okay, well, we're not interested. All right, that's fine. That's fine. If anybody's worried about commercial real estate, go back and research the RTC. Back in 82, was it? Go back and research the RTC. Let me tell you what the federal government did. They stepped in. All these savings and loans went belly up. This would have been, maybe it was 84. Very similar today. Bunch of savings. This hasn't happened yet, but I'm just telling you how it worked. Bunch of savings and loans went belly up. Government developed a trust. And they went in and said, all right, commercial real estate guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fire sale everything. So you guys just need to close your blinds, make sure you got good financing in place, because the next 18 months, we're going to fire sale America. Actually, a lot of these guys I know here in Houston that have been doing this for like 40 years, a lot of them got their start back then. They bought a lot of properties for huge discounts. So in any case, the RTC comes in, sells all this bad debt off these savings and loans books in like 18 months. Values took a dip. About 24 to 36 months later, values were back. It's called fire sale. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. Is that the last one? One more second. Okay. What year was that? Oh, here we go. All right, you ready to go? Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind. Oh, it's between 89 and mid 95. The Resolution Trust Corporation closed or otherwise resolved 747 thrifts. Those are banks, savings and loans banks, with a total assets of 400 billion. Again, this is in 1990 numbers. Its funding was provided by the Resolution Funding Corporation, which still exists to support the debt obligations. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so they went through and essentially sold all this stuff in a handful of years. Let's see, equity stuff. I'm looking through here. Oh, they had a fund associated with it. In any case, you can read on Wikipedia and to your heart's content, but we've got vehicles to ensure this stuff doesn't reach epic proportions. But I think they're just willing to print. I mean, the easiest way to do this, easiest way to solve all this right now, they could go in, all right, have surprise meeting. They could do this like Jerome Powell gets up there. He's like, hey, everybody, big surprise. Me and the guys got together last night on Zoom, and we decided to go ahead and cut rates 200 basis points. Market would go into like, whoa, what's going on? Now, they'd have to reprice all their stuff. Banks and stuff like that would kind of be freaking out. But it's like, hey, look, inflation's kind of a mess, but, we can't have these banks failing and you losing all your money at the banks. And we can't have all these commercial real estate assets, get destroyed for 30, 40% of value. So here's what we're going to do instead. We're just going to lower rates. I don't think people understand how different this is in 2008. 2008 was predicated on free money to people who couldn't afford homes. And I'm telling you, if you've not watched The Big Short in a while, you've got to watch when they are at the Gentlemen's Club coming back from Florida. So a couple hedge funds guys went down to Florida to go look at these condos and who's buying this stuff. And they're trying to figure out how do we short the real estate market is really as bad as we think. So, these hedge fund guys and Wall Street guys do what most Wall Street guys kind of do with too much money and, the maturity of a 15-year-old. They go out to the Gentlemen's Club. And they get the VIP and the bottle service and all that crazy stuff. And so this gal's dancing on a table for him, and the guys are talking. And she says, well, I have 7 mortgages in my name. And he's like, wait, what? You? Well, he spins her around. He's like, what do you mean I got 7 mortgages in my name? She turns around, and he like spins her around again. Like, no, you own 7 properties. Yeah, we're flipping condos and crushing it and all that stuff. And then like the next scene, the guys are like running on the private jet to get back to New York as fast as possible. So they're like, this whole thing's about to implode. I had a very similar experience when I was going up to Fredericksburg. We stopped to go visit my parents in Killeen. We met them there. They live in Georgetown. So we met them in Killeen at this burger place, a fantastic burger joint, by the way. And between Killeen and Fredericksburg, I stopped for gas and something to drink in the middle of nowhere gas station. Like middle of nowhere, central town, middle of nowhere. And they had a Bitcoin ATM machine. A Bitcoin ATM machine in the middle of nowhere. So I get back in the truck. Girlfriend's like, what is it? I was like, they have a Bitcoin ATM machine in there. She's like, really? Here? Yes, it's over. It is over. The market's already saturated. Who else is going to buy Bitcoin? It's right. You have an ATM machine in the middle of nowhere. It's so funny. The cryptocurrency guys don't understand what a commodity, what commodity and branding a commodity really is. If money is worthless because it's everywhere, it doesn't all of a sudden increase in value. Like that doesn't, just because there's quote limited amount of it, when the market's already saturated and there's a quote limited amount of it, it's not really valuable. It's really interesting when you get in these discussions, like here you are in the middle of nowhere, or this is my favorite, anything before COVID. When you guys are like jumping in Ubers and let's say you're going to visit somewhere. We were at a bachelor party in Nashville right as they started opening things up. And I remember chatting with a guy that was in my Uber driver. He's like, well, what do you do? I do real estate. He goes, I've been thinking about getting my real estate license, but I'm doing really good with cryptocurrency. I'm like, oh, yeah, I bet you are, buddy. You are about to get slapped across the face. Hope you're not mortgaging your home to buy Bitcoin. Hope you're not doing that, dude. I don't know. I hope it worked out for him, but probably didn't. So let's go back to what's happening here. So versus what's happened in 2008. 2008, we were giving money to people who couldn't pay. Should a gal who dances for a living, no slight on exotic dancers, but probably not the most professional real estate investors. I'm just going to throw that one out there. And here they are buying 7, 8, 9 houses at a time. And then we have this big crash and everybody's shocked. Bitcoin, everybody and their brother's owning it. Everyone's talking about it. Your mom's even talking about it. I mean, when it makes it as a discussion point on Fox News, it's over. What's their median age? 72? I saw it someday. Somebody was talking about it. 68, 70. When it's there, it's kind of over. There's no ground floor at that point. When it hits Fox News, it's over. It's not groundswell anymore. It's pretty much popular contention at this point. So when you look at 2007, 2008, everybody was buying homes. Everybody was flipping homes. When the market's that easy, you know it's at a top. Versus now, it's way different. Way different. I think the median credit score, the last I looked, for the last year and a half, was a 780 to buy a house. Pretty insane when you think about it. So the reality is there's just not all these properties that are underwater and homeowners are going to walk away from them because the folks that we've been giving loans to, like 60 to 80%, have a 720 or greater. Heck, it's cheaper with the mortgages they've procured in the last 2 years to stay in their home than it is to rent. In fact, I'll give you a prediction. I think we're going to have a real problem when rates dip. Here's the problem. We are already 50% lower in inventory than we were in 2019. But here's where the real problem is going to be. There are a lot of people that are sitting at home that would like to buy another house, but because rates haven't come down, they won't. But they're interested in renting their home. Man, this rate's so low. I mean, why don't we just rent this and then buy another house? There's going to be a whole new group of landlords out there. So now what's going to happen? When you have this pent-up demand, rates drop into the 5s, these homeowners decide, I think I'm going to keep this house and rent it, but I want to buy another one, buy a bigger one down the street. So that new supply is not going to come on the market, and you're going to have an increase in demand. You're going to have more buyers in the marketplace. Prices are going up. I don't see any scenario right now where prices go down. We have to have a collapse in demand or a massive increase in supply. Let me tell you how big it has to be. In Texas, we know it takes about 10 months of inventory until we have price reductions. In Houston, we are at 2.4. We would need 5 to 6 times the inventory to get to price reductions. I don't know where that comes from. 5 to 6 times. We have 2.4 months. We would have to get to like 8 to 10. And I keep asking, Jason, markets could crash, markets could crash. I'm like, how does it get there? How does that happen? Explain to me how that happens. How do we get 4 to 6 times as much inventory in the marketplace, assuming demand stays the same? Now, maybe we could have a collapse in demand by a factor of 3. And then we have an increase in supply by a factor of 3. But still, that's 300%. These are big numbers. Real estate just doesn't swing like that. It doesn't have these wide swings. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Mastermind.